Howdy. This is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host. It is Sunday, January 4th, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy dimpled Chad day. Today's show is robust, today's show is big, and today's show is live here on YouTube and on Twitter as we break down the Ohio State University Buckeyes men's basketball matchup with undefeated Nebraska coming up tomorrow night. It'll be on Monday. If you're listening late, it's probably on Monday, so it's today. But if you're live here, this game will take place tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. in the Schott on FS1. I assume that there's a fair amount of tickets that are still going to end up being available. Whenever you listen to the show, tickets are probably available. So take a look. If you're in the area, if you think you can potentially swing getting to this game at 6:30, I highly, highly recommend you do. There's a lot of energy around this game. This is a big time matchup for Ohio State as they have the opportunity to pick up that first real signature win of the season. So if you get the chance to get to that game, highly, highly recommend you do so. I already said this is a robust preview. I've got a lot of notes here. There's a lot to get into. I hope to be done before midnight. And if I'm not, that probably means someone's holding me at gunpoint, continuing to make me talk about this show or talk about this game. Alas, this is going to be robust. It's going to be deep. There's going to be a lot that we got to get into here today on Ohio State taking on Nebraska. So, again, highly recommend that you stick around for the entire show. Like it. If you're on Twitter right now, please like the tweet. If you're watching this video, you have the opportunity to hit the heart button. Please do that. If you're on YouTube as well, please like the video there. Subscribe on YouTube. If you see in the comments already, I've posted those comments there where you can get access to the Substack. I published an article there today. Got a lot of good feedback on that. Wasn't really expecting it. Felt like a normal one, but people liked it, which I appreciate. So get on the Substack, views from the shop podcast.substack.com, your only source for Ohio State basketball exclusive content in the entire world. Also, subscribe to your podcast on Apple, Spotify, or elsewhere. Give a 5-star review. Cannot let the Nut House win. And you can follow on Instagram as well. That's at the Shop Pod. Make sure you're following on Twitter too. So today we break down Ohio State against Nebraska. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw Nebraska being undefeated heading into the new year in 2026, and yet here the Cornhuskers are. They were picked to finish 14th in the Big Ten, the preseason media poll that Adam Jardy, of course, from the Columbus Dispatch, or just from the Dispatch, it's one of the two. He helps put that together. Nebraska picked to finish 14 out of 18. Right now, Nebraska undefeated, tied atop the Big Ten. And by the way, if we just look at KenPom among teams in the Big Ten, you've got Michigan at number 1, you've got Purdue at number 4, Illinois at number 8, Michigan State at 15, Iowa at 17, and Nebraska is there at 22nd. So one of the top teams in the Big Ten. You look at the record, we'll talk about if this team is legit, but right now, what we're seeing from this Nebraska team so far this year is they are among the best in the Big Ten. 14-0, 3-0 in the Big Ten right now. This is year 8 under Fred Hoiberg, a historically bad college basketball program. That's not a slight at them. It's just the truth. But Fred Hoiberg is slowly but surely building up this program here at Nebraska. So far this year, they've got wins over Oklahoma, New Mexico, Kansas State, and Creighton. Really outside of that Kansas State win, all of those really, really good wins for out-of-conference games so far this year. And then in conference, they drug Wisconsin, winning that game by 30 points. They went to Champaign and edged Illinois by 3, and they're fresh off a 2-point win against Michigan State. That was a thriller, concluded maybe an hour or so after Ohio State beat Rutgers on Friday night. So far, Nebraska passing every single test that they've been given to this point. The net absolutely loves Nebraska. They're 11th in the net right now, 22nd in Ken Palm, and 22nd as well in Bart Torvik. That means there's a quad one game awaiting Ohio State coming up here tomorrow night. Even though this game is at home, Nebraska well within that quad one territory for Ohio State. So it's going to be a big game for the Buckeyes nonetheless. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting as I watch the Big Ten more closely than any other conference in college basketball, waiting for proof. Are we sure Nebraska is legit? The predictive metrics love them. The net is in love with Nebraska at this point. And you get 3 wins over 3 solid Big Ten teams. That seals the deal for me. If you look at the eye test, just watching them play offensively, defensively, they look great. Fluid ball movement. Rick Mast is back this year. Bryce Sanford, big time transfer pickup. And they've added one of the most underrated freshmen in all of the Big Ten in Braden Frager at this point as well. So they're getting help from all different angles at this point. Freshmen, transfer, return players. Nebraska right now among the best in the Big Ten, and they would like to prove they are among the best in the nation. So we'll get into the Nebraska offense. We'll get into their defense. We'll talk about 2 keys of the game for Ohio State to win this one, and then I will give my game prediction. As a reminder, we always have some stragglers coming in a little bit late, so welcome if you're here live. Like if you're watching on YouTube, please like. Even if you're not watching on YouTube, just like it. I got to cough for a second here. Mute button. Pardon. Mute button is a wonderful thing. Still really trying to fight off this sickness I've had for going on 2 weeks now. So prayers for me that I get through this. Regardless, like it on YouTube if you're watching there. Even if not, get to YouTube, like the video. It helps out a bunch. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Like on Twitter as well. When I get done with this show, I would like to open up Twitter and see just likes upon likes. That would be great. So let's get into the Nebraska offense. Appreciate you being here with me this evening. Right now, Nebraska averaging 81.7 points per game this season. They've got a 119.2 offensive rating, shooting at 47% from the field and making 34% of their three-point attempts so far this season. All in all, 44th in adjusted offensive efficiency. That number comes from Ken Palm. So as we talk about this Nebraska offense overall, the Nebraska offense, it doesn't look all that different from what it's looked like over the past couple of years. They really emphasize spacing, they emphasize a lot of off ball movement, and they want to get shooters in position to make shots. They want to get guys in space and really emphasize spreading people out so that they're harder to defend and it's easier for them to score. Here's the thing with Nebraska. They really, really, really want to shoot the 3-point ball. This is the number one thing that we'll look at for the Nebraska offense as we head into this game. It's a team with a 50.4% 3-point attempt rate. If you're ever above 50%, that's really, really high. Even as teams are taking more 3-pointers than ever across college basketball, they are 14th in the nation in 3-point attempt rate so far this season. It's that modern approach to offense that we're seeing kind of shift in college basketball. They don't really have the shooting at the rim part necessarily, like some other programs do, but the 3-point shot is something that Nebraska really emphasizes. They've got 5 players taking 4 or more 3-point attempts so far this season. That does include Connor Estegin, who is out for the year with an ankle injury. He last played on November 25th, but outside of him, you've got Bryce Sanford, you've got Rick Mast, you've got Jamarquez Lawrence and Braden Frager, also averaging 4 or more 3-pointers attempted so far this season. If you want to compare Nebraska's numbers with Ohio State's, I'm happy to do that with you right now. This is courtesy of College Basketball Analytics, of course, a great friend of the program. 3-pointers attempted so far this year. You've got John Mobley Jr. at 5.4 per game, Bruce Thornton at 5.1, Devin Royal with a little drop off at 3.9, and then a pretty large drop off, Christoph Tilly at 2, and everyone else less than 2 3-pointers attempted per game so far this season at Ohio State. So Nebraska taking more 3-pointers by a large margin than Ohio State so far this season, and they're 13th in the nation in just raw number 3-pointers attempted per game so far this year. So they take a lot of threes. haven't talked about if they make a lot of threes. So let's get into that. As a team, they make 34.2% of their attempts from behind the arc. It's not spray and pray. They're not marksmen from deep. You're somewhere in the middle. As you look at this Nebraska offense, you look at Sanford, you look at Moss, both of those players shoot just below 40%. So shooting it pretty well from long range so far this year. Sanford, he's got 5 games with 4 or more made three-pointers so far this season. He just made 6 against Illinois here a couple of games ago as well. You look at Moss, he's made 7 in a game this season, and he's fresh off a 6 for 13 outing against Michigan State. How does a player go 6 of 13 from deep and his team only score 58 points? I don't know. Michigan State probably has a better answer than I would, but it doesn't matter because they did not win that game. Jamarquez Lawrence, he's really cooled off as well from deep. He's making less than 30% of his shots from behind the arc since the start of December, but the 3-point number overall for him is not bad whatsoever. He's a guy you're going to have a hand up on if you're an Ohio State defense. Now, Ohio State, they continue to defend the 3-point line really well. Only 30% of shots from deep go in on Ohio State's defense so far this year. You look at Rutgers, they made just 6 3-pointers against Ohio State on Friday night. North Carolina dropped in 8. That's fine. West Virginia made 12. Obviously, that was a marathon of a game, but they did also shoot 46%. So it was a productive 3-point shooting day for West Virginia there in Cleveland, and a losing effort to the Buckeyes. Illinois crushed Ohio State in the first half, kind of cooled off in the second half from long range. They made 11 in that game. So you look at outside of West Virginia, outside of Illinois, Ohio State, they've done well here this season against Power 5 opponents. So that's a matchup to watch. Nebraska wants to shoot the 3 ball. Ohio State defends the 3 ball pretty well at this point. So that's your first matchup to watch there for Nebraska offense against Ohio State defense. The next one that you look at is the spacing for Nebraska. It really lends to creating for others. Excellent off-ball movement. They do a great job using screens, a lot of wide pin downs. Sometimes you'll see double screens, staggered screens, things like that to get 3-point shooters open. Nebraska really, really plays well on the screen game, the spacing game. You'll see guards playing 40 feet rim at times just to spread out the defense a little more and create more space inside the 3-point line. They play with ultimate intelligence offensively, and this has all led to a 65.1% assist rate so far this season. That's good for 12th in the nation for Nebraska. Sam Hoiberg is a name you probably know. He's the chief facilitator, averaging 3.9 assists per game so far this season for the Cornhuskers. This is really how Hoiberg stays involved in the offense. Now, he's tied for 13th in the Big Ten in assists per game with his teammate Jamarquez Lawrence, both at 3.9 assists per game. But I'll single out Hoiberg here. Again, he stays involved, not necessarily as a scorer, more so as a distributor and leading kind of the quarterback of the offense for Nebraska. He's got 3 of 5 games. He scored double figures in 5 games. In 3 of those games, it came against Power 5 opponents, but he loves to share, very consistently dropping anywhere from 4 to 6 assists per game at this point for Nebraska. The assist rate is 81st percentile in college basketball. The turnover rate for Hoiberg is 85th percentile in college basketball, and his assist to turnover ratio in turn is good for 99th percentile in the nation this season. So there's no one, well, a couple, but basically no one who's more reliable and better in terms of leading an offense than Sam Hoiberg. Now I'm curious, where is Bruce Thornton this year in assist to turnover ratio? Now, in the article that I published today on the Substack, views from the Schott podcast.substack.com, actually, I'm just going to pull that up and I'll throw that in the comments as well. I talked about Bruce Thornton. I talked about the fact that he may not be the best player in college basketball this season. I'm not going to argue that. But in terms of the value and how irreplaceable Bruce Thornton has been for Ohio State this season, he's one of, if not the most valuable player in all of college basketball. You come at me all you want, read the article, and then you can argue with me. Bruce Thornton's assist to turnover ratio so far this year, 3.06. That's 94th percentile. So a little bit behind Hoiberg, but still very good. So that's an interesting point guard on point guard matchup there. And Hoiberg, I don't want to take anything away from him offensively. He can absolutely score on the drive. He can score at the rim. He's a little slippery there, even though he's undersized. He's slippery at the rim. He's going to score off swipes and steals as well, creating possessions for Nebraska. But his role here for the Cornhuskers, and you'll see this tomorrow night. This is a player who excels with the ball in his hands, finding open teammates, and facilitating the offense. Now, Lawrence, on the other hand, came into college at Nebraska. Last year, he goes to Rhode Island, comes back to Nebraska now for his senior season. He's got a 24.6% assist rate. That is by far and away the best assist rate he's had in his career in college basketball. Incredible speed with the ball in his hands as well. So if he's pushing Nebraska out in transition, because of the speed he has, he's able to find trailers a lot of times, finding them open to hit threes or to grab the ball, drive to the hoop, make a layup. That's what you see a lot of times from Lawrence as well. So those are two guys who can really share the ball well for Nebraska. Another key tenet of the Nebraska offense, it's very much something that Jake Diebler would appreciate. You've got very versatile bigs. Look at Moss, and then you also look at Burke, Bjoik, Buktigel, probably 75th or so percentile pronunciation there. It's fine. They can play kind of Christoph Tilly, Brandon Knoll type of styles. I'm not saying that they're the exact same skill level, talent level, player type, anything like that, but that's what you'll see. You look at Buktigel, he's going to attempt a couple triples per game, but kind of like Tilly on Ohio State's side, he hasn't been effective. He's only shooting 20% this year from behind the three-point line. Moss, again, he went 6 for 13 against Michigan State, so he obviously has the ability to hit threes. Ohio State fans remember what he did to Ohio State just a couple years ago. Let me pull that up here. His numbers against Ohio State. It'll take me a second to get there, but you'll understand it. If you already know how he played against Ohio State, you understand why I'm bringing this up. So let's go back 1 year. Game recaps, courtesy, of course, of College Basketball Analytics. So against Ohio State, this was an 83-69 win for Nebraska at home against Ohio State on January 23rd as a part of the eventual dismissal of Chris Holtmann as head coach at Ohio State. 34 points in that game, 13 of 17 from the field, and 7 of 9 from the three-point line. He also had 10 rebounds, leading to a double-double against Ohio State. So go back and watch that game, I guess, if you want to see the type of player he is and what he did to Ohio State. Very, very similar. Again, both of these guys can score off the drive. They can catch the ball at the elbow, at the free throw line, in the back part of the paint, and then they can score from there rather than needing the traditional posts up in order to be effective. That's not what you see from the Nebraska big men, the bigs. And the last thing, I'll talk about Mass. I mean, it's been this far into the show. I haven't even mentioned the leading scorer, and that's Mass. He's averaging 16.6 points per game. That's how deep this Nebraska offense is. That's how versatile this offense is. We're this far into the show. I'm just now bringing up their leading scorer. They've got guys who can absolutely score on this team. Mass is your leading scorer. Outside of that, you've also got Price Sanford, who's right behind him, averaging 16.2 points per game. He's a big-time three-point shooter. In that game against Illinois, by the way, if you didn't have the chance to go back and watch that, you should. He scored nearly 30 points by halftime in that game and ended up finishing with 32 points total and a winning effort for Nebraska. So he's been a big pickup for the Cornhuskers away from Iowa this season. So those are some names that you should be keeping an eye on offensively for Nebraska. Now we get into the defense. So Nebraska allowing 65.5 points per game. That's good for 23rd in the nation so far this year. They've got a 95.6 defensive rating. That's 17th in college basketball, allowing just 37.4% of shots from the field to be made this season. That is third in the nation. And 30.1% of three-point shots go in. So very similar to the Ohio State defense there. And they're 18th in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency. That number, of course, comes from Ken Pom. So as we look at the numbers, something I like to do at this point in the year, where you've had enough games to where we get a good feel of who you are, but We also need to break down, are you playing Power 5 teams and getting these numbers or non-Power 5 teams? If you look at the games, Power 5 teams that Nebraska's played this year, they just allowed 56 points to Michigan State. That's absolutely excellent. They allowed 80 to Illinois. They still won, but 80 points is a lot. They allowed just 60 to Wisconsin. They just absolutely it was a Hail Mary on Wisconsin, player to player for play, and they were converting. They were catching them in the end zone every single time. Only allowed 50 points to Creighton. Kansas State did score 85. New Mexico scored 72, not great. And Oklahoma did put up 99 points. So we're seeing a lot of up and down. We're seeing Nebraska really stifling some offenses and not stifling some other offenses in the Power Five. Wisconsin, 60 points. That's the least they've scored in a game this year. Michigan State's 56 is also the lowest. Creighton's 50, also the lowest they've scored. So they've held some teams to the worst offensive production teams have had this entire season while still allowing 99 points in a game as well. So there's some ups and there's some downs with this Nebraska defense. The rim defense in particular has not been spectacular for the Cornhuskers so far. Just 64% of shots go in. That's pretty good for opposing offenses. So Nebraska's defense not great there at the rim. It's just a little bit below NCAA average, but especially at the Power 5 level, you'd probably like to see that number be a little bit better if you're the Nebraska defense. Ohio State, on the flip side, another potential matchup to really key in on here. They remain on fire at 73% at the rim this year. That's really, really good. They're seventh in the nation in 2-point shooting overall. We know Ohio State takes a fair amount of mid-range shots. They're not focused on only getting the shots up at the rim. They'll take shots in the mid-range as well, and obviously take a bunch of shots in the paint. You look at Christoph Tilley, Amari Bynum, Brandon Knoll, Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal. All those guys are averaging at least 2.8 shots per game at the rim or more this season. So those are the players you look at in this one where you would say, man, if Nebraska isn't great when it comes to defending shots that come right at the rim, and Ohio State has some guys that get there and are really effective, is this an area of opportunity for Ohio State? And I would say it absolutely can be. But there's one main issue here. Nebraska does not allow shots at the rim. They're not great necessarily defending shots at the rim, but they basically never allow shots at the rim. Just 17.7% of shots allowed by Nebraska this season come at the rim. The NCAA average is 13.8 percentage points higher than that. So Nebraska is way, way, way below the national average in shots allowed at the rim. So they're average, they're fine, they're nothing special. Ohio State's really good, but they funnel shots away from the rim so well that it's hard for teams to get there. Can Bruce Thornton get there? Can Devin Royal get there? Can Christoph Tilley get there? That's a question I have in this one. Another note on this Nebraska defense. They are begging for you to shoot 3 points. They are on their hands and knees, and they are begging. Please, please give me an iPad. I beg of you. 51.9% three-point attempt rate. That is 360th in the nation. Bellarmine, Louisiana Tech, New Mexico, Chicago State, and South Alabama are the only teams so far this year allowing more three-point attempt, a higher rate of three-pointers allowed from the field than Nebraska. That's trivia for you. I guess you going to work tomorrow. If you're anything like me, you've had about 2 weeks off here, and now you're going to work tomorrow and figure out what it's like to function as a real adult. Go in and go tell a coworker, "Hey, did you know that these 4 teams are allowing more three-pointers, percentage of three-point shots, from the field this year than Nebraska?" Good morning, Nancy. The three-point percentage, it's definitely not bad whatsoever at 30.1%. You look at some of the games this year, the Power 5 games that they played, Oklahoma made 14, New Mexico had 13, Kansas State scored 12 three-pointers, Michigan State and Illinois both had 10 triples. So, they have been susceptible to allowing shots from behind the arc this year. To me, you look at John Mobley Jr. Got to be aggressive here. He's not afraid to be aggressive. He's got to take smart shots. He's got to take good shots. But I'd like to see him be aggressive in this game. Devin Royal, Bruce Thornton, you need that continued consistency. Royal has kind of gone on a slide there, shooting the three-point shot over the past month or so. Tilley, Christoph Tilley, can you finally make a three-pointer, please. I'm begging you, just one. In this game, it would be huge. Nebraska's asking for it. You gonna take them, Ohio State? We'll see. Last note here on the Nebraska defense, they will not foul you. Do not expect to get fouled if you're Ohio State tomorrow night. Teams are only drawing 13.9 personal fouls per game. That is ninth in the nation for the Nebraska defense. That leads to only 13.7 free throws attempted against Nebraska. That is fifth in the nation. Crazy numbers. They sit down, they defend, they slap the floor. They're fundamental. Buckeyes are going to have to be able to score in the half court in this one. We'll see how they do it, but don't expect to get a bunch of free throws in this game if you're Ohio State. Alrighty, keys to the game. And again, I remind you, always the views go up as the show goes on. If you're new here, please like, please follow if you're not even following on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube, like the video on Twitter and on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Go back through the chat. You'll see all the links there for you. This is the only Ohio State basketball exclusive podcast previewing and recapping every single game Ohio State plays, plus having media members, players, coaches, staff members from Ohio State University on the show during the offseason as well. So highly encourage you subscribe. Alrighty. Keys to the game for Ohio State. And thanks for being here, by the way. Keys to the game for Ohio State. Number one for the Buckeyes. What I will say in this one, spray the trays. All right. I have continued to wait. Have you continued to wait, as Kevin continued to wait, for Ohio State to have a nuclear game from behind the arc is now the time. I predicted they were going to be incredible from behind the arc this season. And one of my three bold predictions, which I might be able to find this relatively quickly, and I'm going to try to do it. And you're just going to have to sit here and see if I can do it or not. One of my most bold predictions for Ohio State this year was they were going to be exceptional from the three-point line. Here it is. Click the arrow a couple times here. I said, I guess I didn't say as a team. I said John Lomé Jr. is going to make 100 or more three-pointers. I said Ohio State was going to score 100 points or more 5 times. We'll see. Jury's out on that. And I said Ohio State was going to lead the Big Ten in scoring. All my bold predictions were offensive for Ohio State. One thing I expect them to do was be a better three-point shooting team. They haven't done it this year. 34% is from deep is it's not bad. It's also not ideal. So as you look at what I just talked about with Nebraska's defense allowing three-pointers, and then you take a look at Bruce Thornton, 45% from deep. John Lowry Jr., 41%. Devin Royal, he's down to 37%. Royal is just 5 of 19 since the Northwestern game. But you look at Amari Bynum, Brandon Knoll, Chris Tilly. All those players have either been inconsistent or just straight up bad this season. Dog water, some would say. It's time to embrace shooting the threes if you're Ohio State in this one. Tayson Chapman, upon entering the game, he better not break a sweat. His pulse better not increase before he shoots a three. I don't care if that means he's sitting down and Ohio State's defending 4-on-5 and he's just waiting there on the wing. I want to see Tayson Chapman take a three and be aggressive in this one. Overall, Ohio State, I want to see them be aggressive from three in this game. I want, and this is something that Jake Diebler has talked about, something that behind the scenes as well, I'll tell you, the communication, the players are keep shooting the threes as long as they're good threes. Christoph Tilly couldn't hit water. He fell out of a boat. Don't care. Keep taking the threes as long as it's a good shot. They want to rein him in a little bit, I think, but they still want him shooting the threes. I think that's the case for everyone pretty much on this roster is if you've got to look, you got to take it. I think Nebraska, because they're so prone to allowing three-pointers, Ohio State's going to have to take them, and hopefully they can make them as well. You look at the Nebraska offense, they're likely to put up 70 for sure, maybe 75. They might touch 80 in this one. You got to be ready to score. So the first key to the game I've got for Ohio State is you've got to spray the tray. Please do that. Please do that, Ohio State. We'll see if they do it. Second key to the game. I wish I had a rhyme. I wish I had a catchy little phrase here. I don't. Just defensive rebound like men. Sorry, I know it's 2026 now and assigning the gender to being strong, whatever. I get it. Just defensive rebound like men, Ohio State. Sometimes you just gotta challenge your guys. I think Jake Diebler needs to do that. Against Power 5 teams, they've got just a 65.9% defensive rebound rate this season. They have 0 games with 30 defensive rebounds against Power 5 opponents this season. That's not good enough. It's average, it's not special, it's no better than average. Buckeyes have gotta be better there, okay? We've talked about the game against Illinois, we talked about the game against North Carolina, how tough that could be. Overall, whether it's Rutgers or Pitt or Notre Dame, it hasn't mattered. Ohio State has not been a great defensive rebounding team in those games, and here's the thing, Nebraska, they're 276th in the nation in offensive rebounding rate. So you cannot let Nebraska get extra shots up. You cannot let them have extra possessions because you don't rebound. Sometimes you just got to be the tougher team. Sometimes you just got to be the stronger team. Sometimes you got to go grab a loose ball. And Ohio State's got to win the 50-50 balls. Sometimes it comes down to defensive rebounding. I think Ohio State, if they can defensive rebound like men, they can be strong. They can take pride in defensive rebounding. They're going to have a good shot to win this game as well. So those are my two keys to the game for Ohio State. Spray the tray and defensive rebound like men. All right. You're all here for a prediction, right? That's the whole point of the show. You want to know who I'm going to take, or maybe it's probably getting close to halftime of the Steelers Ravens game. You're like, "I'll see what this guy has to say." And here you are. Well, thanks for being here. Let's get into a prediction. I got a couple questions though first. My first one: is Ohio State going to increase that zone they play in the half court against Nebraska? This, along with full court press, I can tell you, I've been told from multiple people, it gives them energy. They like pressing. They like playing zone. Now, that doesn't mean that they're looking to force turnovers. It doesn't mean that they're looking to squeeze you. They're not looking for, half court violations or anything like that. What they're really looking to do at times is just give energy and increase just your overall defensive camaraderie, your gelling, things like that, the communication, because that can lead to better offense as well. So I question that. This is what turned Ohio State around in the Rutgers game, something I didn't mention in the preview show. One of my insider subscribers on the Substack mentioned that to me. I should have mentioned it. I didn't. That was the key turning point for Ohio State. So are they going to zone Nebraska in this game? Nebraska's a tough guard. We'll see if they do it. Nebraska loves to shoot the three-pointer. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. Another question I have, can Ohio State find its way to the rim? Nebraska, they don't sport insane size. They're outside the top 100 in average height, according to Ken Palm. Again, we talked about the fact that Nebraska's okay, not great. Against shots at the rim so far this season defensively, Ohio State loves to get there and score. So, what will the Buckeyes be able to do in that world? If they can score there, if Ohio State stones Nebraska, those are some things to keep an eye on as you watch this game. Here's what we got. So the numbers are already out for this game. Ohio State opened as a 1.5 point favorite. That number is now 2.5 points. So some money must have come in on Ohio State pretty quickly here. What does the BIP say? Well, our internal betting intelligence platform here at the Views from the Shop podcast that won us a bunch of money last season and has been in timeout for a little bit here this season. It says this game should be a pick 'em and says Nebraska has a 51% chance to win this game. So Ohio State favored by 2.5 now. The BIP says, wrong team might be favored here. I won't give my thoughts there yet. I expected the line to come out at 1.5 for either team. Came out for 1.5 with Ohio State as a favored team. Now it's at 2.5. Do with that information what you will. The total came out at 154.5. That's exactly what the BIP said the line should be at as well. So in this game, I think a lot of points are scored, and I think the first team to 80 wins. So I would lean toward taking the over 154.5. I think we do see a lot of points scored in this game. I'm hoping it's both teams scoring a lot of points, or at least Ohio State scoring a lot of points. That would be fine with me and probably fine with you as well. Here's the thing. We're still waiting for Ohio State to pick up that signature win. They nearly did it against North Carolina before they earmuffs pissed down their leg, and it was a bad loss. I don't care about the we shoulda, coulda, woulda at the timeout for Jake Diebler. I don't pin that on him, but you shoulda won that game. It was a close loss to Illinois. You proved you can compete with Illinois, but you didn't prove you can beat them in a 40-minute battle. Look, as you look at the results that Ohio State has had this season, if you listen to the show with any consistency, you know at this point I have said Ohio State, they're not proving to me that they're an NCAA tournament team. I don't care what the resume says. In terms of my eye test, they're not proving they're there. They struggled mightily with Rutgers before taking over that game. They struggled with West Virginia, which West Virginia is a fine team. They might be an NCAA tournament team. Notre Dame is bad, man. You beat them by 1 point. You need a Christoph Tilly shot with like 8 seconds left to win that game. They're just not proving it to me. And unfortunately, I'm gonna continue to pick against Ohio State until they prove me wrong in games where they're punching above their weight class. So in this one, I will take Nebraska, I guess, to pull off the upset according to Vegas. You look at I don't know where Nebraska is in the AP poll, and that'll come out tomorrow, so it doesn't even matter anyway. Probably top 12-ish team Nebraska will be. They're undefeated. So the naked eye would say it's not an upset. Nebraska should win this game. Vegas says otherwise. I'm taking Nebraska to win this game. I think Nebraska wins it 80-74 or something like that. I think Ohio State keeps it close, but in the end, Nebraska is just too much for Ohio State to handle because again, I think they're punching above their weight class, and until Ohio State proves me wrong on this, I'm picking the team that is projected better, whether that be a coaching thing, whether that be a talent thing, whether that be a something is broken thing. I don't know what the answer is there. I'm just saying Ohio State isn't giving me enough to trust them at this point. So for that reason, I'm taking the Cornhuskers to win. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that you come back and say, told you so, you idiot. And I'd be good with that. So a couple questions here in the live chat that I'll get to, and then we'll get out of here. So question from at roleplayers24 asking, are we concerned about Devin guarding Price? How do we adjust? That's where I get into the potential for a lot of switching here, or not switching, but zoning for Ohio State. Obviously, Price Sanford, he stands at 6'7", so he's got some size. He can play out on the wing. We'll see how Devin Royal adjusts. I don't know. I think that Royal has had some bad moments. The good thing here that I think may help Ohio State and may help Devin Royal is the type of player that Price Sanford is and the type of team Nebraska is. They want to shoot the three ball. Price Sanford has a 63.2% three-point attempt rate this season. So because of that, I think he might be an easier guard, a slashing type of forward, more of a Bryce Williams type of player that you saw last year at Nebraska. That would be a tougher player for Devin Royal to guard. That said, I think Ohio State could be okay there. On the bench production, what is the number of points we need to feel good about winning? I've said over and over on this show, if you score 80 points in a game, I don't care if it comes from all starters, you've got a chance to win. I personally, I don't get all that fired up about the bench production just because if you're scoring points, you're scoring points. I personally don't really care where it comes from. I get there's deeper meanings to it, and what does Ohio State do? Do they fall and do they stumble and they lose? Do they lose a lead, or does the opponent grow its lead? When the bench players come in, I get that. Ohio State's working on the rotation. What do we do to get this to get this team better in the first half? What do we do to help them get better in terms of bench scoring? I don't know the answer to that. It doesn't really worry me all that much. So I can't even put a number there because Ohio State has won games this year with little to no bench scoring. Did I expect Tilly to be this mid from at Go Buckeyes 1000? Um, I don't really know if Christoph Tilly is mid. I I that may be a hot take. I think Tilly does a really, really fine job at getting his way to the paint and scoring at the rim. If you look at his numbers so far this year, he's shooting at 71% at the rim. So far, NCAA average is 63%. So he's well above average there. He's 48% in the paint. So far, NCAA average is 42%. I get that there's questions about his toughness. I get that there's questions about his rebounding. His defensive rebounding rate is 16.4%. That's 60th percentile in college basketball. His offensive rebounding rate is 8.7%. That's 57th percentile in college basketball. So these numbers are not like all that bad. I think Tilly, he gets a little bit of a bad rap because of the three-point shooting. Again, he's shooting at 11.8% so far this year. I think that creates a lot of frustration. Outside of that, I don't have as much frustration on Christoph Tilly as a lot of fans have. Another question here. What do you expect atmosphere-wise? I don't know. This is why I started the show by saying, look, if you can go to this game, you absolutely should. Look, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it right now. I'm not gonna be able to go to the game. If you're on the Substack, you know this already about me. I might have shared it on the show. I don't even remember at this point. The love of my life, also known as my wife, she she really wanted a puppy, and we got a puppy, and she loves her puppy. And you know what? He's a fine young man. We got him a little early, a little before 8 weeks, which is generally the customary age for when a puppy should go home. If you've ever had a puppy, if you haven't, I'll let you know. Puppies of this age, the number of months that they are is about how many hours it can go being in the crate sleeping without going to the bathroom, which means myself or my wife are up every 1 to 2 hours at this point, taking the dog out at night. Sleep, kinda hard to come by. Sick? Yeah, I was that as well. A little tired. Why in the F am I talking about this? I don't even remember how I got here. Oh, because I said you should go to the game if you can, because I had a question about what to expect atmosphere-wise. Look, I would love to go if I were able. Puppy, reason I can't, blah, blah. You don't give a crap. However, if you go on TickPick, TickPick, not a sponsor, could be. I get my tickets from there because the price you see is the all-in price. You can get in for $21, and there's a lot of seats. These are all 300 level, $21, $28. In terms of the best values, you can get down on the lower section, the 100s for 73, 74, $80, things like that. So, look, I've always said this. I've said this on this show before. Spend money on experiences, not stuff. Like, it's cool to wear a jersey. It's cool to wear a hoodie. It's cool to go out to eat, whatever. Cool to buy stuff for your car. I don't know what you do with your money. And quite frankly, it's not my job to litigate that for you. But I would say you're going to feel much happier on a Monday night if you go to this game for 20, $30 than if you go out to eat, you Uber eat something, and by the time all the fees are up there, you're paying about what you would have on a ticket anyway, and you're going to watch the game on TV. Just go. If you get the chance to go, I recommend that you get to this game. What do I expect atmosphere wise? I don't know. It feels like people have been buzzing a little bit more on Twitter for this game. Does that mean people go? I don't really necessarily know that that's the case or not. I hope they do. I think the atmosphere will be C minus, C plus, somewhere around there. All righty. That's all we've got for this show. I am unfortunately picking Nebraska to win this game. Nebraska, the underdogs. I wonder if you get plus money on that. I'm not going to check. You can check yourself. I'm not betting on it. I'll say that much. I don't have any confidence in my prediction on this one, but I will pick Nebraska to win this game. So we'll be back. It'll be Monday evening or Tuesday morning that you get the next show where we recap Ohio State against Nebraska, and we'll continue to preview and review every single game Ohio State has across this season and beyond. I appreciate you being here more than you can ever understand. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night if you're watching here live. Until next time, I shut up. Before you shut me off, go Bucks.